All right, I think we're about live on Out the Box. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Out the Box Talks. I am your host, Cril. I'm very excited to have another episode for y'all in this week. This is episode 69. Shout out to all of our viewers, all of our listeners who have been tuning in, who've been making an effort to catch the shows. I do want to say one thing, however, in regards to these episodes that you guys have been seeing from me with Out the Box Talks. A lot of the artists that you are seeing me bring to the platform, you might not know who they are, right? And I think it might be wise to take some time to listen to the music, maybe even before you check out this interview. Or if you prefer to just watch the interview and it inspires you to go check out the music, I think that's dope as well. But I wanted to preface by saying that because a lot of the interviews are based on the body of work that we're talking about, right? And I think it helps you to get a better understanding of what the artist represents musically, especially as it pertains to the music that we're talking about, right? And it just helps you to walk away feeling more appreciative, I think, of the music, right? So that's my hope, is that when you hear these interviews and you've learned about these artists, you're able to go directly to the music that we're talking about, and you're able to be inspired by the music, right? Or you gain some type of thoughtful listener experience when you listen to the music. So I would say definitely, I encourage you to check out the music of the artists that we have these interviews with, because it just makes the interview much more fun, right? Much more a greater experience to walk away with, I think. So like I said, man, as usual, we do a new episode every Friday, and this episode is no different. The thing about this episode, though, is that it features an artist who is, I want to say, our first live international artist that we're having on the platform, right? This brother is actually hailing right now from the country of Malawi, Africa. And I'm so excited to be able to connect with him. And I'm grateful that technology has afforded this type of opportunity. He has a new project out called The Parable of the Chariot that was released this year, not too long ago. And for the bulk of the interview, I'm going to be talking to him about that. But I also want to get a little bit of an understanding of his history with music. So we're going to talk about all of that today. So I hope that you guys stay the course for the interview. You know, even if you're not catching it on Friday when it airs, whenever you do catch it, hopefully you stay able to stay the course, or at least come back to it at a later time, because I think it'll be an insightful episode. So before I bring this brother in, I do want to say we have our website, outtheboxmedia.com. That is the main place that you can go to find out about all of our previous shows. We also have our Patreon page, which is linked on that website, where you can get exclusive interview clips for, to listen to interviews that you've never heard before, right? That is only done for the members of Out the Box Media that go above and beyond to become a Patreon subscriber. So make sure you go to the website and, check that out. And if you feel like you want to give that support and tune into that footage, and that experience, definitely, feel encouraged to do that. Also, we have our merch store, which is on the website as well. It's the Big Cartel merch store for Out the Box Media. We got t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, snapback hats. All of that is on that merch store. So, anything you can do to support our movement, we really appreciate this. It definitely costs money to do this and to keep it going. So it definitely helps, all right? So, yeah, I just wanted to say that before we jump into our interview. I don't want to keep this whole thing going for too long, but definitely go support outtheboxmedia.com and go check out the website and all that it has to offer. So without further ado, I don't want to keep the listeners waiting too long. I want to welcome to our listening audience a brother who is a poet, MC, lyricist. He is hailing from Malawi, Africa. He, like I said, he has a new album out right now entitled The Parable of the Chariot. A few years ago, he released a project called Secrets of the Secret. And in 2018, he released a project called Alchemy, right? Secrets of the Secret was in 2019. And then prior to that, Alchemy was in 2018. So, like I said, man, without further ado, I want to welcome to our Out the Box Talks listening and viewing audience for episode 69 of Out the Box Talks. I want to welcome my brother, Sage Poet. Welcome to Out the Box. Let's bring him in. Let's bring him in. What's good, Sage? Welcome, welcome to Out the Box Talks. It's such a pleasure to have you here, man.
Thank you, sir. How you doing?
I'm good, I'm good. I know I did a long intro, man, but I had to make sure I represented for you, man.
Thanks for that.
Indeed. So you are currently residing in Malawi, Africa, right? Is that where you are natively from?
Yes, I'm from Malawi. I've been born and raised here.
Indeed.
Never stepped out of the country. Yeah.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. So I have a lot that I want to talk to you about, you know, but before we even jump into this project, this new amazing project that you have, Parable of the Chariot, I want to talk to you about your history with music. Like, how did you, coming from Malawi, Africa, get involved with hip hop? Like, how did that become something you wanted to pursue as a lyricist?
Let's see. I think it started with I think it must have been Gangstar or Cannabis or one of those around that time when I was like young, you know. And then I had a homie of mine. I think he had a cassette, Moment of Truth cassette.
Talk a little, I'm sorry, talk a little closer into the mic because you sound a little distorted. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Yes, so a homie of mine back in the day, he had like a cassette for Moment of Truth. And I think 2000 BC or something like that. So this would be like the records that I was like so interested into trying out. Like, I think I want to do this as well, you know. So I think that was like around early 2000, 2001, 2002. And then like my first like proper like recording and everything was around 2008, 2007, 2008. 2008, I had my first a whole compilation album, sort of. So I think that set me off real good.
Nice, nice. So Gangstar, huh? How did you even know about Gangstar? Like what was some of the platforms that you were exposed to in Malawi, Africa, that put you on to hip hop, or like how did you become inspired with even learning about hip hop out there?
Okay. So like here, most of the music that we had to access was mostly bootleg material, or maybe folks that went out there maybe for holidays or for school or whatever. You know, they would bring back some records, but it was really tough. It wasn't as easy as now with the internet, where you can just search for whatever and find it. So back then it was kind of different. but mostly it was the bootlegs, and then we would buy also cassettes in town. They would have like all these collections of different records. I remember like one time I got Soul in the Hole and New York Reality Check 101, two cassettes at the same time. Yeah, I think I was still in high school or something. Yeah, but then you used to like find some, you know, like in the collection. They would have some dance records. They would have some just like a little bit of everything, and then you always find some hip hop. You know, some hip hop in that, and then you keep just following whatever you find, and then just collecting. It was
Oh,
dope.
dope, man. It's so amazing how, hip hop travels, in whichever form you get it, you know.
Yeah.
So tell me about the name Sage Poet, right? Like, how did you decide that that was going to be your MC name?
Okay. Like before, I used to call myself Young Poet, and then after some time, you know how young was so like cliche. I was like, nah, I need to have a proper name that means something, you know. It should be attached to whatever I'm going to stand for as an artist. So I just decided maybe I should be the sage, you know. I should be the dude that always comes through with that knowledge or that wisdom, you know, that profound wisdom. So I'm gonna be that cat. So let me be the sage. But since I'm a rapper, you know, this is poetry, this is hip hop, rhythm and poetry. It's not just the wisdom or the knowledge, it's got to be poetry. So let it be the sage poet. So, yeah, since then, I think that was like around 2006, 7. Yeah, since then, I've always been a sage poet.
Dope, dope. Can you just try to center your camera, your phone a little bit? Because it's kind of going, yeah, yeah, that's
Oh,
perfect.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, perfect.
So,
So for those that may not know, can you give us a brief explanation of your discography from the Alchemy album in 2018 to how you got to the Parable of the Chariot album in this year? Just a brief
okay.
explanation of from that point to now.
All right. Okay. So, like for Alchemy, I think that was like the time when I really wanted to make an album that needs to tell a story or tell something, you know? It wasn't just about some rap like I used to do maybe before. This time I wanted to tell a story about something that is critical, something that we don't really like to address, you know, most of us as artists. So basically, it was also because of what I was thinking about for a while, you know, the oppression, you know, the inequality, you know, the distorted history, and all these things. So I started thinking about a record that will explain what it means to transmute from being ignorant to being somebody who understands where you come from or who you are as a human being. So basically, that was what I was trying to do with alchemy, you know, to transmute like us as human beings, transmute from this ignorant state of being to starting to understand that we're one. I was like building the Chariots theme from there.
Wow, that's dope. Yeah, I noticed that about your music. It could be self-reflective at times, but it's also like you're almost like telling history in this poetical manner, that it really resonates in that way when you listen to it. So let's talk about this new album, Parable of the Chariot. I think one of the biggest things that struck my attention with this project was the album art, right? Now, I
Yes.
have to say that when I looked at the album art, I didn't know what I would be getting lyrically in the music, right? But it was intriguing enough. So can you explain the significance of the image seen on the cover art of Parable of the Chariot and what inspired you to choose this cover for this project?
Okay. So basically the cover is from it's from an Indian epic. It's in the middle of a war, and basically that is an army general from one family who and is the charioteer, that is Krishna, and they're in a battle basically between another family and another family. It was a family feud. So on that chariot they have like a long discussion about duty, you know, basically as a warrior. So it's a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. So the reason why I picked the specific art also is because the parable of the chariot also explains how things are supposed to be in sync. You know, once one thing loses control, then the whole system is going to be shattered. So for it to be in sync, everything has to work with oneness as a whole system. So that is why I specifically picked that, which also connects to the theme that I was working on.
Got it. Got it. It makes so much more sense now. See, I love when I can actually get the artist on to talk about the art, right? Like their reasonings, their inspirations behind the themes, the cover art, the lyrics, the subject matter, all of that stuff.
Yes.
Why'd you choose to title the album Parable of the Chariot?
Okay, at first I wanted to call it Love Light, basically. I wanted to call it Love Light because that's what it is. That's when you listen to Parable of the Chariots, that's what you're going to get. That basically we are all one being. You know, there's no consciousness that is specific to a person or consciousness that is specific to me. You know, we're all one being. We're the creator experiencing what I would call the illusion of separation. You know, trying to understand all possible extremes of things, but then we're the same thing. We're the same creator. We're the same oneness, the same unity. But then we forget. That is why we mistreat each other,
Mm.
because we forget who we are. That's why we feel like we're independent or we're different or you know, I'm better race or I'm richer or whatever, you know. And then with this whole pandemic, all these things had me thinking when I was, you know,
Wow.
writing this project. Yeah.
Wow. You know, it's interesting that you spoke about love and light because I was going to ask you about that, you know, that concept a little later on, but I'm going to just jump to it.
Yes.
There's a song that you have. Let me just make sure I got the correct. I think it's called Compassion.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually talk about love and light and the significance of both words in the song in the most simplest way that you can put it. How would you define love and how would you define light and how do the two actually relate to each other? So that's like a 2 or 3 part question. I would say just define love and light in your simplest way and also how the two relate to each other.
Okay, like the simplest explanation I would give, not to, because this is a whole
Yeah,
discussion on its own.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yes, but then we can say, first of all, light is everything. Everything that we have as matter, whatever, is composed of light. That's what it is. It's the expression of the creator in objectivity. So, okay, if to understand love, let's look at the sun. You know, imagine the sun has never said to the earth that you owe me the shine that I give you every day. You know, just think about that for a second. That every single day we wake up, the sun shines for a specific time, and then it goes, and then it comes back tomorrow, and then it shines for a specific time to bring nourishment. You know, it brings cycles, you know, and everything. It helps into all these things that happen on this planet, that we benefit from this radiation of the sun. But it never says that, you know, you owe me this sunlight. So this is just an example of unconditional compassion, you know, giving without expecting anything in return. It's also reflected in the way, you know, nature is set up. We're symbiotic in nature, you know, like trees give us the oxygen that we breathe. You know, they don't ask us for anything back. But then that's just their nature. They have to radiate out that oxygen, and then we give them also the carbon dioxide that we breathe out, and then the system keeps going, you know. So that just shows you how the creator expresses itself in the universe, that we're one thing, we're love, we're compassion. That's what we are. We're not division, we're unity.
Well said, man. Um, as you say this, it makes me think about where you currently reside, right? You're in the motherland of Africa that I've never stepped foot on, that hopefully I can get to be there at some point. I can travel there
Yeah.
at some point. Talk to me about the relationship that you have with nature in Africa, like that is special to your experience, right? That, like, I guess, shine some light on what I might actually be missing that is of value to you in regards to the good things that you gain from nature in the land of Africa. Does that make sense? Do you get where I'm going with that?
Yes, I do to a certain extent, but then I think like you and me are not really different. We're you know, we live in a society that operates almost the same way everywhere. You know, like you would be surprised when you come here, you know, and of course you're going to see a different scenery and everything, but then you still see that it's the same way everywhere. We're not really different, you know. This whole, you know, the bad food, the GMO, whatever, everything, it's everywhere. It's not just like, you know, you feel like maybe Africa might be organic and everything, you know. We're also victims of certain disconnect, you know. But then, you know, just like anywhere, you know, you always find some people who want to, you know, have a reconnect to how things are supposed to, you know,
Right.
be.
Indeed, indeed.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No. I get it. I get it. I was more
Yeah.
so talking from the angle of just the experience of the land. Like, you know, when I think about Africa, I think about the soil, I think about the water, I think about all of the elements that play a part in nature in a special way, you know. Like, I was just curious to know, like, what you know, what that feels like being on the land. But you've probably you've lived there all your life, so you might not be able to
Yeah.
distinguish. But as a brother in the diaspora, you know, I'm
Mm.
curious, you know, because I've never been there, you know. But it's all good, man. It's all good. Hopefully I'll
Yeah.
get a chance to get there soon, you know.
Now that you mentioned that, you know, this actually gives me a lot of thought to something to think about. You know, like the other time, this just reminds me of the other time I had a conversation with my grandmother, and I was always complaining about, you know, how it's so hard to get a job, how it's so hard to do whatever. And then she's like, you know, the problem with you youngins is you never have the time to appreciate what you already have. You know, you're always trying to count on what you don't have. And we always forget about the things that are available there right there, you know?
Listen,
It's
man,
crazy.
it happens here too, right? I think it happens with all of us, which is, I think, when you said we're not so different, we take for granted a lot of times what we're around and the blessings that we're around. So like I said, man, it's dope to connect with you on a different part of the earth, you know. Even though I know we have a lot of similarities still.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the second song on the album. It's entitled Christopher Columbus. It's
Yes.
sort of like a poetical observation of his deception to the indigenous people.
Yes.
But what would you say is the underlying message you wanted to convey in this song? And try to keep your camera still if you can.
Okay. All right. Okay. If you notice, the first song, "Darkness of Night," you know, it's a conversation between two people from two different regions of the earth. So, "Darkness of Night" builds up the Avengers. It builds up Christopher Columbus, and it builds up the whole beef between the Sun people and the Ice people, you know? So if you notice in "Darkness of Night," it's Imhotep meets the first guy from this first survivor from the Ice Age or something like that, you know? So this guy is full of vengeance, you know, he's trying to, so Imhotep is there trying to explain why the pride of whatever they were gifted with gave them so much karma as well over time, you know? So they just wear the mask now and await whatever happens because they have to deal with whatever happened before. This is karmic events. And then the other guy is full of vengeance, you know? He's trying to, he's explaining to Imhotep that I was also, you know, from the same land that you chased me away from, you know? You pushed me away into the ice, you know? I couldn't hunt, you know? I couldn't do anything. I had so much time to think. I had so much vengeance, you know? And then, yeah, something like that. And then it builds to Christopher Columbus. So Christopher Columbus, I intentionally left it like that because everyone knows what happened after. I just wanted to try to have a conversation between Christopher Columbus and the first guy that he meets, who's like a representative of the native people there, you know? So they have a conversation and not knowing his sinister agenda or whatever. But then Christopher Columbus is also just a representative of the Avengers. Yeah. So in Aryan invasion, this is where it's also the Avengers, but then now they're going to a different region. This is where they encounter the Dravidians in India. So on the Avengers song, that's where it's like these guys are now trying to explain why we're like this. You know, you keep forgetting that we did not just end up being this sinister. You know, certain things happen. So that is why Compassion is like in the middle of the album, because that was like the love part. So the light or the balance, the wisdom teachings now start after, you know, this part. And then if you notice, it's mostly about the teachings, the wisdom teachings and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah. On the other
You're jumping ahead, man. You're answering questions that, you know, I had later on, but that's dope still.
Okay.
So just to be clear, so you're saying that the first track, let me just make sure I got the name correct, Darkness of Night, it's Imhotep that's actually speaking primarily in as the main character in that song?
No, I didn't want to specifically do that.
Okay.
Because at first, you know, when I was just starting to write themed songs like that, I used to try to confine the meaning to the listener on how I see it. But then I kind of stopped doing that over time because I want to have the listener, I want to give the listener a chance to understand it the way they can. You might think of it like that, or you might. The main thing to look at is it's a comedic dude that meets another dude from the other side, basically that's that. So I just used Imhotep because I was trying to explain the issue of the pyramids.
Ah, okay.
The mystery behind how these pyramids were built. Basically, if you heard it, I talk about how this guy brags about we built the pyramids with the power of thought. We didn't carry them like you think. Yes, because we understood that consciousness is everything. It's in the rocks, it's in the water, it's in everything. So if consciousness is in everything, we can communicate with everything. See? If we can communicate with everything, we can communicate with the rocks and we can carry them and build them to whatever we want to do. So the power of doing that, gave us too much pride, and we pushed some people away from here, feeling superior and everything. So now it's coming back. It's the same energy that, it was something like that.
Wow, man. Your music is very dense, very layered in thoughts and history, and just like you could like continue, you could go back and listen to it over and over again and like learn new things. Like, what inspired you to even take your music in this direction? Like, to be such a storyteller and, have, such deep meaning in your music. What inspired that?
Okay. I think it's also because of the music that I usually like to listen to. There's certain people that never compromise. There's certain artists that I feel like are not really appreciated to the level they should be, or they have so much detail in their music that I think it started to inspire me to try and do the same, I'll give an example of Lupe. Lupe is like one of my favorite artists. This guy, his work is phenomenal. It's something that should be studied. It's so dense, and it always fascinated me, like how this dude puts in so much detail in every line. It's like everything is intentional. It's not just random things. Just like he always tries to take it somewhere.
I can definitely see the inspiration from Lupe. I'm glad you mentioned him.
Yes, and Priest too. Priest is like Priest. I've listened to Priest a lot more than Lupe.
Killer Priest?
Yes, Killer
Oh,
Priest.
yeah. Got it, yeah.
It's similar also. The way this guy like put so much detail in the work, man. It's incredible. So that's like two of my inspirations that like really helped me out with the storytelling, that I should try to be different. Let me try to be different, not like everybody else. Let me try to tell a story different.
That makes a lot of sense, man. Those two artists.
Yes.
So going back to the song, Christopher Columbus, so the first verse clearly is told in the character of Christopher Columbus, right? But the second verse is someone else. I believe you start the verse by saying, I greet you in love and life and omnipresence, hosting you and others. The brothers is such a lovely blessing.
Yes.
Who exactly are the native or indigenous people you are representing in the second verse? Because it seems like that's who you're representing, but who is it exactly?
Okay, so in this part, I'm trying to explain the Native Americans, the people that Christopher Columbus first meets when he gets to America. So that's why this guy is telling him that I greet you in the love and light from omnipresence, hosting you and others, the other brothers who already came. It's crazy. It's such a lovely blessing. He's also trying to tell him that, I've already hosted some other guys before you came. As much as this guy is trying to tell a story that he's the one who came first. But then, it's crazy.
Oh, I get it.
And he also calls them the brothers because they're quite similar with I think you get it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now you end the I think it's the last line you say, Italian Bohamis welcomes you. Like
Oh,
who is that? I'm not even sure. Like is that an actual character in history, or is that a representation of something else?
okay. I was saying that uh so he talks about Bahamas like as representing the area, and
Okay.
then he's addressing Columbus as the Italian. So he
Oh,
says Bahamas welcomes you.
okay. Okay, I see you said
Yes,
Italian, comma, Bahamas welcomes you. Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So he so Columbus represents the crown, the Italian, the Romans,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
The whole Christian establishment and the whole Avengers movement. And then he's like the guy from Bahamas. You know, he represents the natives from that area.
Got it. Got it. And you're talking about the actual island of Bahamas.
Yes, you can say so, or you can say the whole America as a continent, or Bahamas is
Okay.
the area.
Got it. Got
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things I noticed about your lyrical sound is that when I hear you rap, right? Specifically when I hear you rhyme, I don't hear an accent in your vocal delivery. Like you sound like someone that either lived in America or is actually from America when I hear your vocal delivery. What do you attribute to your vocal presence and delivery as a lyricist? Is it just what you've been inspired by? Like you come across like when I listen to you, you sound like you're a rapper from America. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand that. I was actually asked by some people I met this past weekend. I went to some festival in a different city. So there were these three Americans, some American women who came also to watch the show. So after that, they were asking me the same question. Like, you sound, you don't sound like most of these guys. So this is what I was telling them, and this is exactly what I'm going to tell you as well. I think that's the reason why, you know, uh, things like you get to wonder why maybe conscious hip hop is not accepted on a mainstream platform or whatever. I think the reason is the same that you know anything that is artistic goes direct into the psyche, and you start to assimilate to that culture even before you know it. You know, you look back later on, you see it changes the way you think, it changes the way you talk, it even changes your choice of things. You can trace it back to the music that you listen to, the way you dress, the way you can actually tell how a character of a person just by the way they dress. Sometimes, the basics. You can tell, okay, this cat is probably, this type of dude. Or he probably takes lead. No, he probably, just by, or you can see this brother here, he looks like he might be of this type of caliber, just, by the way he talks and something like that. It's because whatever art you've been consuming, you assimilate to that culture. You assimilate to everything. I think that happened to me as well because hip hop is something like rap music you consume every day. If you're a hip hop head, it's every single day. You have headphones in your pocket everywhere you go. When you're working, you're listening to some raps. You're jogging, you're exercising, you're doing it's every day. So for years, they become like your colleagues or your friends or your family. You start to speak like them. I don't know if it makes sense.
No, it makes absolute sense, and it's crazy because before I came on to interview you, I was almost thinking, man, is he gonna sound like this while I speak to him as well? But I can definitely hear your accent now, and it makes so much sense that like you said, you assimilate to it. If it's something that you're connected with on a regular basis, you start to take on that sound, and I think it's dope. Not that there's anything wrong with anyone else who speaks um like, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, you got MCs from the UK and you could hear their British accent clearly, you know, but I thought that was interesting to hear from you. So I'm glad that you kind of explained the inspiration behind it, or the, you know, the what created that, you know. But that's dope, man. That's dope. I think and I'm glad that you were connected to the conscious hip hop artists and not the the ones that ain't saying stuff, you know. Like, that's dope that you connected to that, because that's what I resonate with, right? The creative, the conscious, the thought-provoking hip hop artists. And I think hip hop has a lot to offer that's on an uplifting level with those types of artists. So I'm glad that you followed in those footsteps, and that was what you were connected with and inspired by.
Thanks, man.
Indeed, indeed. So on the song Aryan Invasion, you start with the line, "The darker the skin, the bitter the truth." Can you explain the use of the word bitter in relation to that entire line? Because I had to ponder that line when I heard it. I was like, yo, this is a profound line to kind of start with. But go ahead, explain.
So basically, we're talking about the caste system here. You notice how the ranking in the caste system, those darker fellas are usually the street sweepers, you know. They're the bottom caste, you know. They're not the priest class, they're not the warrior class, they're not the merchant class. The Dravidians, the darker ones, the ones, the melanated brothers are mostly the ones who experience the most oppression in the caste system of the Indian society. And when you notice, the corrupted caste system also goes together with skin color. You know, those beige brothers are mostly the higher caste, and those darker brothers are mostly the bottom class. So this brother is complaining about why is it like that? Why should it be that the color of my skin should determine my hierarchy in society, you know?
Wow. For those that don't know, who are the Dravidians? Because this name comes up. It came up a number of times when in speaking to you, but it also comes up in this song. Like, who for people that might not know, who are the actual Dravidians you're talking about?
Okay, the actual Dravidians are the native Indians. They're the original Indians, the darker brothers. Because the Aryans, we could consider them as the wanderers who came from the Middle East. They're a mixture of European and Middle East people. So these guys came over to India, and then they assimilated into the culture, and then they mixed with the Dravidians, the people they found there. So those fair skinned, those who look like Europeans, or they look like Asia, Middle East Indian, we could say they came from elsewhere, and then they found these natives there. So these natives are called Dravidi. That's what they're called.
Indeed, indeed. Wow, man, you putting a lot of like, there's a lot of history, like I said, in your music, man, and I think it really gives the listener a very interesting experience, right? Like, you could actually almost go through a little timeline of, you know, understanding about some of these peoples, you know, whether they've been oppressed, invaded, or, you know, just even native people. Talk to me about, let's go back to Aryan Invasion. Like, who are there's a range of people that you're talking about in there. Like, like, in addition to the Dravidians, are you talking about other groups of people that we should know about?
No. This one is specifically about them.
Okay.
It's specifically about their story as these Indian Dravidians.
Got it. Okay.
About them and their system, and they call it the Brahmanical system.
Got it. So to continue on in relation to that song, you have a line where you say, "We taught you the wisdom we traveled with from Kemet." Kemet being the original name of the land of Egypt, or the ancient name, right?
Yes.
Which people are you specifically talking about in this line? Is it also the Dravidians? Because let me just say that there's been this talk, right, about whether or not West Africans have come from Kemet, right? And or where's the connection between West Africa and Kemet? And when I heard that line, I thought about that, but I just wanted to be clear. Like when you said that line, it made me think about, you know, the migration from Kemet to West Africa. Like, who are you talking about in that line? Is it the Dravidians or someone else?
Okay, so in this line, it's the Dravidian
Again,
talking to the Aryan
okay.
brother. So when he talks about Kemet, he's talking about Africa as a whole, you know?
Okay.
Talking about the wisdom that they traveled with from Africa, you know, the Ma'at, the laws of Ma'at, you know? He's trying to explain to him the laws of oneness, harmony, you know, the stuff, the matriarchal system, before the patriarchy, because he also understands that the patriarchy came during the time these people were in a struggle in the Ice Age. You know, that's how the women became subservient. Some even went to the extreme, maybe might have turned them into food because they couldn't hunt. So there's so many dynamics that might have happened that he understands. But then in the Kemetic system, it was not a patriarchal system. So he's trying to explain that, you know, we traveled with this wisdom and we established ourselves here. And we also broke bread with you when you came, you know, because these guys came in as shepherds. They didn't come in as warriors. They came in as shepherds. I even talked about it in one of the lines, the shepherd brethren, beige in complexion. Yeah. But then these guys had an agenda also. They're also looking for survival. You know, they need to establish themselves as well. So he explains to them that, you know, as much as we gave you all that wisdom, and then, you know, this is how you pay us back. Something like that.
Wow. It actually makes a lot of sense. So when you say Kemet, you're actually talking about the wisdom of Africa in a way, right?
Yes.
That makes sense. I was taking it like literal, like you're talking about the specific civilization of Kemet, right? Like, no, but that makes even more sense.
You can even say that as well.
Right.
It's you can translate it like that into the specific wisdom from Kemet, which is the same teaching. It's the same Ubuntu teaching from the entirety of Africa. It's the teaching of oneness. You know, it was everywhere. It wasn't just in Egypt or Kemet, as we call it. It was everywhere in the southern region or in Western Africa. You find the teachings of this whole system of oneness there. You know, they just called different names, but then it was the same teaching.
Yes, makes a lot of sense. Now, on the song Compassion, you have a few vocal features on there. I think the names that are on there are Tadala, Sangonja, I don't know if I'm saying it correct, and Game Plan. What's interesting about the song, though, is that they're all speaking a language different from English, right? So if you could kind of explain, like, what language are they actually speaking, you know, the different features, like, because even in the hook, there's a different language, right? And how did it become where you would be the only one on the track to speak in English or to rhyme in English?
Okay. So the language these guys are speaking is a Bantu language. It's called Chichewa. It's
right. That's the original language of the land.
Yes, this is the language that we mostly speak when we do whatever. Yeah, it's like the national language. It's called Chichewa. It stretches all the way to Zambia. There's parts of Zambia that speak Chichewa and Nyanja. They're similar languages, but they're both from Bantu language. So these guys, Sagonja and Tadala, they actually mostly rap together, and they're like the most like elite MCs here in my country who rap in that language, you know? And the reason why it's so tempting sometimes as an artist to try and do what others do every day, you know? I would have tried to write a verse maybe in the same language, but then I wanted to try to do what I can do best and then also give them a chance to express how they do what they do best and try to mix it up together without, trying to have some egos to try what this other guy does or whatever. And I think it worked well.
I think it did. I think it did. And
Mm.
it there's another song on there. Let me just get the exact title because there's another song that's like feature heavy as well. And I think I think it's Journey from Here to Here, where
Yes.
it's also feature heavy, but it's all English speaking. And I thought when I thought about the two tracks, I was like, yo, it's dope that he like showcased like only like features from a different language, like a different language other than English. And then he did another track where it was just only like, English in terms of the features. Was that something
Yeah.
intentional that you wanted to show different posse cuts with different languages?
I didn't really think about it that way, but then now that you've mentioned it, it's now I'm starting to think about it. But then it was about the artist. Most of them are like some guys that I kick it with. Like the first guy is from a different city. I wanted to do actually a feature from the other city, like how it is with you guys from NY and LA. You're trying to do some work with some guys in LA who are similar.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was dope.
So yeah, so it was like two of us, I think, from this city, and then the guy on the first verse and the guy on the last verse are from a different city, but they're all homies, like that.
Dope.
So back to compassion, I intentionally also, because at first, I wanted to do like what Jizza did with Priest. Remember how Jizza let Killer Priest have a whole song on his album?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I wanted to do that initially, to have these guys just do their song, and then I won't be in the song, but then it's going to be in my album. That's what I wanted to do initially. But then on second thought, I was like, but what's going to happen to people who are out there who don't understand the language? I need to anchor the message.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very important for them to understand. It's a pivotal point in the album, the compassion part. So I still have to find a way to squeeze in the message so that if they listen to my verse, they'll automatically understand that these other guys are also probably anchoring this same love and light message that this brother here is trying to explain in this album.
I think that was smart. Because I was getting ready to say, nah, you should have just left it the way it was. But like you said, the song Compassion, the message is so important that you didn't want to leave people not knowing what it was about. So that was dope. That was dope that you did that. You kind of brought the message together. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So that those who were English listeners could understand. Dope. So going back to the song Journey from Here to Here, which we talked about with the other posse cut, where it's mostly like English speaking MCs. I thought it was clever how you titled the song Journey from Here to Here, right? In the actual title, when you say here to here, are you implying this idea that we haven't made any progress and that the first here is in the same place as the second here, meaning we really haven't moved anywhere? Is that what you're implying with the actual title?
It's something like that.
Oh,
because okay, for me, I feel like we don't have time to understand the problem. That is the main problem. The main problem is we don't have time to understand the problem. If we did, we wouldn't have most of the problems that we experience.
wow. Talk to me about that. Why do you think we don't have time to understand the problem?
Look at how, for instance, how like Black people, for instance, you know, we look at the way we live, the way we our spirituality, or not just Black people in specific, but the fact that we're still divided, we still feel like separation is real.
Mm. Mm.
That is already a huge problem. We can't understand who we are if we still feel we're separated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to understand that we're all God.
Mm.
You know, we're collectively we're all God. But
Mm.
then since we forget, we're busy with other things, glorifying, uh certain mundane things, And also I wanted to address the issue of like the woke movement, how
Right.
it creates egos in people, they start to feel like they're better than others or whatever, or it's crazy, man. It's really crazy, especially like in Africa, like how we have this whole illusion that we have democracy, you know, and then it just breeds greedy people. Every 5 years, we have to reshuffle and then set of new ideas, and then another 5 years, some other guys will come, and then nothing is really moving. And even like the way we approach most of the problems, we go and march in the name of our lives matter or whatever, like it's crazy, man.
Mm. Yeah, man. It's a lot to reflect on. So another song on the album called Disharmony, you speak about the damage that some of us have done to the planet Earth. I think you have a line where you say, Mother Earth is hurt. She's throwing tantrums.
Yes.
What are some of the things you think we as individuals can do to give back to the planet in a positive or nurturing way?
I think
Level.
the first thing we could do is start to love our bodies, the vessels in which we keep this whole consciousness complex. Like we can start by to stop killing for consumption to satisfy our tongues. How we eat so much meat, we actually breed the meat, we actually have farms for animals. We slaughter them against their will, just to satisfy our tongues or our desire.
Mm.
It's something to think about. All these cows, all these goats, all these chickens, they spend their whole life in a cage, stripped off their freedom just to satisfy our desire, our tongues. It's something to think about. I think that's a good place to start by what we consume for food.
Right.
That would be a good starting point to show that we think about the environment, or we want to be in sync with the environment.
I could dig it. I could dig it. So as you can see, I'm going through songs on the album, right? So
Sure.
I'm almost done. Just stick with me. The song Insperience. I like how you titled that too, right? You took the X and flipped it to the N. Insperience. The first line on the first verse, you say, thinking is electric, knowing is magnetic.
Yes.
Why do you explain thinking and knowing as these two terms?
Okay. If you look at, suppose God is trying to have an objective experience, so we can say this happens simultaneously, but then at the same time we can put it in linear way for easy understanding, that God is trying to understand both polarities of existence. That is why God sort of like disintegrates its consciousness into us, or into creation, into duality. You see? So we can say that is differentiation, like how we do in mathematics. You know, that's the differentiation process. But then at the same time, after learning those experiences, then it has to go back to unity. So that's the integration process. That's the evolution now from the rocks, you know, to the plants. You can see how plants follow the light as they grow, and then there's movement, and then so forth, and then we go and towards until the light, and then back to God, to unity. So that's the integration process. That's the knowing phase. So basically, it's also the same with light. You know, light is, this is how it starts on the compassion verse. Like, light is electromagnetic. You know, part of it integrates, part of it is it's differentiating.
Wow.
That's also how the Merkaba works, because it's magnetic and then it's electric. Something like that.
Wow, man. Well said. What I noticed about this album, Parable of the Chariot, is, and I think you alluded to this earlier, is that like the first, I want to say like the first 4 tracks on the album, or the first half of the album, is talking about a people's history, people who've been conquered, invaded, oppressed, or taken advantage of. But what I notice is that as the album continues on, I think from Compassion on, the track Compassion on, it takes a turn, right? Where it's like the subjects sound like it's more self-reflective than historic. Like you're utilizing, you know, it's like utilizing principles to better ourselves, or better, to be better human beings in this modern times. Tell me why you chose to go in that direction with the project. Like, why'd you start off in this historic way, but then transition on in this other way?
It's from chaos, and then it's going to order. You know, basically, I would sum it up like that.
Got it.
Yes, that's why it's experience the wisdom of the rishis.
So it even go, oh, wow, that's dope. That's dope.
Yes.
Man, you're layered with this, man. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Indeed, indeed. So, on the song Wisdom, featuring, it's a vocalist by the name of Hope Son. Am I saying his name right? He really does an awesome job with the singing, by the way. Like it's I think it's one of the most, I hate to say this, but like if there was like a mainstream appealing record on the album, that would be the one, right? Wisdom. But I mean, it's a great record off the bat.
Yes.
Right? You have a line on there where you say, truth is not out there ready to be discovered, but it's something that is inside. I realize abundance. Profound line.
Yes.
What do you mean exactly when you say that truth is not out there, but it's inside?
It's the whole thing about how people be searching for God somewhere, or thinking about how the creator of the universe is aloof somewhere. The moment you start to think like that, you separate yourself from God. You separate God cannot be separate from creation. You know, energy is non-dual. It's everywhere. It's everything. So the moment you start to search out there, you're adding to the problem of separation, because now you're going to approach God with fear. You know, it's not going to be love, and it's impossible to love God if you look at God as aloof or supreme being that is on a throne somewhere. You know. But if you consider that God is everything, you know, God is consciousness, is energy, and energy is conscious. The moment you start to look at things like that, you start to understand that, you know, you, me, you know, or that brother over there, we're all expressions of the same creator. When we don't have to search the creator else far away, you know.
Wow, that's deep, man. That's deep. That is deep. Man, it's been a pleasure, man. I gotta say, it's been a pleasure building with you and talking to you about this project. Like, I feel like I've learned more than I've bargained for. you know, in talking to you about the project. And that's always what I strive for in terms of these interviews. My hope is
Yeah.
that the listener comes away having a better experience with the album after hearing the interview, right? Or at least
Yeah.
inspires them to now say, you know what, let me go check out this album as a result of what you had to say in the interview. And I think you did a good job explaining it.
True.
What do you want people to know about your contribution to music? What would you like them to gain from the listening experience of your music? So it could be this project or even just your music in general. What do
Yeah.
you want to impart on people, you know, and leave with them as far as the message in your music?
Knowledge of self.
Awesome.
That's it. That's it.
Simple as that.
Not knowledge of self. It's what we've been talking about today. The moment we ever if okay, it's like how, you know, we have this whole situation where we say the planet is overpopulated. Think about that for a minute. You know, the overpopulation is there because there's certain people who feel like, you know, they deserve to have more things than others. But I feel like the planet can even hold even 10 times the population we have now if everyone was thinking in a way that, you know, harmoniously, or not trying to be greedy about things. You know, there's enough for everyone.
Wow. That's
But
interesting.
then, yeah,
Yeah. When you say knowledge of self, can you explain what that is? Like in the most layman's terms, or the simplest way, like what, like for somebody that's hearing that for the first time that doesn't know what that is, how would you translate that to them?
I would say it's the process to remember who we are.
Mm,
Period. Because we forget. You know, there's a veil of forgetting in this whole process of learning. But then we're also in a process where we're trying to remember who we are, and we're pure consciousness. That is what we are. That is the knowledge of self. That's what all these teachers been trying to teach.
mm,
You know, Jesus or Buddha or these Kemetic teachings, or whatever teaching you try to encounter around the planet, you will notice that the teaching is the same. You know, love your neighbor like you love yourself. You know,
yeah, yeah.
we're basically the same. We're the same being. You know, if I treat you bad, I'm treating myself bad as well. I'm treating you
Say that again.
find it in the
Say it again. Say that last part you said again. You went out for a little bit. Your audio went out.
okay.
Repeat yourself.
Yes. If I treat you in a bad manner, or I feel like I'm superior towards you, then we're missing the point. We're still forgetting. We're still in the illusion of separation, feeling like, you know, I am special and you're not, or I'm better than, or you're not, or
Mhm.
yeah. But the knowledge of self is remembering what we are, who we are,
Right.
and that is the non-dual consciousness,
Mm.
the energy that is not separated. We can say it's pretending to be separated, but it's not separated. It's one thing.
You said it's dual consciousness,
Non-dual.
non-dual consciousness. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Wow, man. You know, the going back to the album as we close out, it closes out at 10 tracks.
Yes.
And I think it works. The 10 tracks work perfectly. But I'm curious to know, like, did you record more music? Did you have to kind of like narrow it down to be like, okay, I'm set with these 10 tracks? Like, how did the sequencing work out in terms of what you recorded for the actual album?
I recorded exactly 10 songs because usually I have everything done before I start recording. I don't like I know most people have, like, you know, they record 50 songs or whatever, but then I think, like, for me, because I have a target, I know exactly what I want to explain, I know exactly where my story has to end and so forth and all these things. But then, like, for the 10, most of the number comes because of Illmatic, man. Illmatic is 10.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
it's a good span, you know. It's like 30 minutes somewhere. It's a very good span of music. Like most classics were somewhere around there, you know. They
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
really like, yeah. So it's mostly because of Illmatic, man. Like how even Alchemy has 10 tracks. Alchemy is actually 9, and then the highest salute is like a bonus. It's like told from another perspective, another angle. But then, yeah.
out of all of your full-length projects, would you consider this your Illmatic so far, or how do you feel about Parable of the Chariot?
Yeah, I think Parable of the Chariot is like is like the best when it comes to the pen. Like the thought. There's a lot of thought in it, and the lyrics. It's very layered. It's
Yeah,
because of the experience also with the 3 albums. But I feel like Secrets of the Secret is like the perfect.
got it.
Yeah, it's yeah. That's like the perfect album. It has a balanced feature, guest features, and the story also. The story is it's something. I don't think anyone has done it like that before, like the 7 deadly sins, but then putting them in a dialogue like between God and a human being or something like that. I've never seen anyone who's done it.
Wow, wow, man.
It goes back to back. Like wrath is from God's perspective, and then pride is from man's perspective.
Mm,
Lust is from God, and then it goes like that.
mm.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I appreciate that you put such thought into your music, and I love the fact that, the vibration is love and positive minded messages, man, and just, critical thought about history and so forth. Um, as we close this interview, what would you say is next for you as far as musical projects, like, and also where can people find or connect with you online?
Okay. Like as far as my music, I have a Bandcamp account. You can find my music on Bandcamp. Also, it's on all other streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music. Or,
Say it again. Your audio went out again. Just repeat that.
okay. Yes, I have the music on all streaming platforms as well. Apart from Bandcamp, you can also find it on the others like Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music, iTunes, and the like. Yeah, you can also find music there.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the next project, I'm not really sure, but then yeah, hopefully I'll you know, I've always wanted to do, you know, a tape like Kaz tape, you know, some drumless joint, but then I always get scared, like maybe, you know, people are not really settled with this whole vibe where it's a whole album with no drums, you know. But
Okay.
that's like something that I've been thinking about for a while. I don't know if I'm gonna do it now or maybe I'll do it later on. But then I'll be
So,
like last year's Cause tape was one of my favorites. I still play that Descendants of Cain like so
yeah,
much.
man.
You know?
Kai's one of
This
my
beat,
favorites, man. He's definitely up there, man. And I've told him before, man,
beat,
like my
yeah,
top 2. Yeah, man.
yeah. Like last year, man, that was like his tape and Rocket to Nebula Priest, man. Those were like
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
inspiration a lot for this
Yeah,
project. And these guys, I really look up to these guys. Like this is
yeah.
art, you know, this is
Real.
yeah.
Dope, dope, dope. Yo, man, like I said, man, it's a pleasure building with you, man. I wish you all the best with this project, Parable of the Chariot. I think
Yeah,
it's such a well, written, produced project. I didn't
yeah,
even get a chance to talk to you about the production because the production is very cinematic. Was it one
yeah.
producer you worked with, or was it a combination of producers for Parable of the Chariot?
Okay, so like I made 9 beats on Chariot.
Oh, you did the
Like,
beat. Oh my
yes, I
goodness, I
made the
didn't even know
beats.
that.
Yes, I made it was actually my first album I made beats alone because usually I make beats and then I just give it to the homies because mostly it's Justice Divine, the homie that made Alchemy and Secrets. That's like my homie from way back. He stopped rapping. He just makes beats. So this time it was like, no, man, you should try to make a record. You should try it. You can actually do it. So I made the beats. I made like 9 beats, and then there's the song Wisdom was Savage Beats. That's like a homie of mine who usually helps me out with when we're working on beats, because he has more experience, with beat making. So whenever we make the beat, he polishes them up. We work on the bass here, there. Is anything else needed? Yeah. So, but then on Wisdom, he made the beat alone of the entire joint. That's why it's kind of different. It's quite melodic because he's more of a dude who plays. He's not like chopper like me, typical chopper like me.
Dope. Wow, yeah. Man, even more dope, man. I didn't even realize that you produced the beats for the project. So, man, thank you so much for taking the time with us today, man. Like I said, all the best with this new project. I can't wait to hear what you got coming next. I know it's going to be dope. I know you're going to experiment and come with the ill stories and concepts. So definitely, man, congratulations and continue to do your thing, man. I appreciate what you do for the music, man.
Yeah. One more thing, man.
Oh, go ahead.
How did you get to find this project?
Oh, the magic question, right? All right, yeah. So there's a website that I usually check for in terms of like new releases. Shout out to them. They're called hiphopgoldenage.com. And
those
they did a review on your project, as one of like top albums that recently came out. And it just made me, look into it, right? Like I said, the album artwork was intriguing enough to make me look into it. I didn't think that the music would be so conscious. But when I heard it, I was like, yo, this is dope. And then when I looked you up, I was like, oh, this brother's from Africa, you know what I'm saying? He's from the continent. And I was like, yo, that the album is so dope that I was like, you know what? I got to get him on the show, man. And so it was that website. Shout out to hiphopgoldenage.com. And I think I saw it. I might have seen the album art circulating somewhere else, but it was Hip Hop Golden Age that I first found out. Yeah. So shout out to them, man. They posted.
Shout out to Hip Hop Golden Age. I'm always on their page as well. I really like those guys. Like I've been following them for a minute on Twitter, every time I'm on Twitter, trying to check out some hip hop news and stuff, I always check out these brothers, man. Shout out to Hip Hop Golden Age.
Indeed. So like I said, man, thank you again. For all of our listeners that's tuning in, make sure y'all catch us on outtheboxmedia.com. That's the website. We're also on Spotify, which is Out the Box Talks is the podcast. So if you want to hear the high quality audio of the podcast, you can catch the audio podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you generally listen to podcasts. Just search up the term Out the Box Talks, the title Out the Box Talks, and you'll find it there. And like, again, you can go to our website, outtheboxmedia.com. So until our next show, I just want to send peace, love, respect, happiness, health to all of our listeners out there and our viewers. Make sure y'all keep checking for us every Friday. We got a new episode. Thank you to my brother Sage Poet again, my first international artist to have on the YouTube platform, remotely. I thank you again for your time, man. And till next week, again, peace out, and y'all have a good one. Stay focused, stay healthy, stay safe. We out.